AMD Cloud Chronicles Powered by AWS.
Welcome to AMD Cloud Chronicles Powered by AWS, where we bring insights from technology leaders across the industry. AMD is a global semiconductor company that designs high-performance and adaptive computing chips. AMD processors, accelerators, graphics, adaptive SoCs, FPGAs, and system-on-modules are being used to advance the future of the data center, embedded, gaming, and PC markets. The company is uniquely positioned to power the end-to-end infrastructure, driving the AI era with the broadest portfolio of high-performance compute engines, an open, proven, and developer-friendly software platform, and deep collaboration and co-innovation with partners, including the largest cloud, OEM, software, and AI companies in the world. I'm Preeti Dahiya, and today I'm joined by Mr. Sundar Ram, Director of Business Development at AWS India, to talk about the evolving cloud landscape, hybrid strategies, and the power of collaboration. Welcome, Mr. Ram.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you with us. And Mr. Ram brings with him a wealth of experience from AWS, Oracle, and the broader enterprise IT ecosystem with deep insights into cloud migration, digital transformation, and innovation across industries in India. So, Mr. Ram, let me begin by asking you about the cloud adoption scenario in India, which has seen a remarkable growth in recent times. What are the key trends that you are observing across industries in India?
Okay, so three big things. I think first and foremost, earlier customers used to just lift and shift applications from on-premise to the cloud. And that generated a bunch of benefits like better uptime, etc. But now what we're seeing is they're looking at a more nuanced approach. Some of them will still do some applications as lift and shift, but some applications will undergo modernization. Some applications will be scrapped and they will build or acquire net new applications, or in some cases, completely new applications which did not exist in the past. So this is one big change. The second is a lot of customers are recognizing the art of the possible, which they did not till a few years back. I mean, even something like eKYC earlier would required a manual intervention, which can today be 100% digital. I'm sure most of you have been through that. Mm-hmm. So that then opens up a whole range of conversations which earlier business people thought was not possible through IT. So now we see the need for business and IT to talk a lot more on some of these forward-looking use cases. And three, as an outcome of this, we are seeing that both are learning each other's languages. So IT becoming a little more knowledgeable about what's happening on the business, right, and business folks taking the time to try and understand the basics of technology, particularly around cloud and AI, and then trying to pull IT into more conversations which are more business related to see if they can combine to form a better solution. So these are three of the bigger trends that we've been seeing.
So adoption has happened in a big way. Integration is happening on a daily basis, and it is likely to expand further. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your perspective on how Indian enterprises are approaching hybrid and multi-cloud architectures. How's that happening?
Always customers will do what is best for them, right? So, and in Amazon, we've always believed in being customer obsessed and helping customers work back from their needs. So when we go to them, we are always thinking in terms of how do I solve a business problem for them? And in the process, we give them the best possible solution we can from the AWS perspective. Now, in some cases, customers, either because of legacy technology, which for a certain length of time has to continue on-premise, or because there are certain nature of applications which require on-premise, or because of, let's say, regulatory reasons, they want to have more than one cloud available. They do ask us for advice on how to run those, and we do help in such situations. Mm-hmm. We have customers who run more than one cloud. We do have customers who have certain classes of applications running on-premise and some on cloud. And we recognize that, it's our job to help them make the best choice. And also give them a perspective on what are the long-term impact of either being purely on cloud, a single cloud, vis-a-vis multi-cloud, vis-a-vis hybrid, and then let them make the choice for themselves. So we see ourselves as being in the business of giving them educated choices, and then they choose what's best for them.
That brings me to my next question, which is specific to AWS strategy and innovation. How does AWS localize its global innovation engine to meet the demands which are specific to the Indian market?
Absolutely. So look, a few things, right? If you look at, for example, India, just the sheer population scale of applications that we have had to build at the price points that we have had to build them at, it's pretty much unrivaled in most of the rest of the world, except maybe China to some extent. Mm-hmm. So we have been focused on bringing our prototyping teams and our generative AI innovation center teams to India to help our customers figure out how best to use our technology in the kind of domain and constraints in which we have to operate in India. One example of that is how, for example, we adopt Indian languages. Right. Where we work with our partners to bring in Indian language interfaces. How do we work with our partners to look at solutions for mobile applications which have to operate in areas where you are not assured of 4G networks, and yet the application has to be able to deliver. So those are the kind of ways in which we are helping to adapt to the Indian scenario. Plus, of course, we also bring in learnings of what has worked in other regions, because not everything needs to be customized for India. Right. There's a lot of stuff that's worked elsewhere which will work perfectly well in India. So we do bring that knowledge as well. For example, NASDAQ, for fraudulent transaction identification, they've reduced the time by 33% thanks to use of AWS AI. Mm-hmm. So we do come and share that kind of knowledge as well. And then we figure out whether that can be used as is by our customers, or does it require some degree of Indianization, localization, in which case we are there to help.
That's very interesting and very well approached from AWS's side. But what is AWS's approach in building vertical specific solutions, for industries like BFSI, healthcare, or even manufacturing?
Sure. Again, in the spirit of working backwards from customer needs, right? So we are always talking to our customers to understand what are the kind of significant business challenges or opportunities that they're trying to address, and we work back from there. Mm-hmm. So an example of that would be in manufacturing, for example. Customers have got multiple needs. One, they need an extremely reliable and secure infrastructure to run their SAP or whatever ERP they are running, right? And that's a big part of their business. But that's not the only part of their business, right? They're also looking at, for example, connected products. How do we build smart factories? How do we build smart logistics? So we work with them to understand these needs, and then from either within AWS solutions or with our partners, and in many cases startups, we put together combined solutions which are addressing these needs comprehensively, and we take those to our customers, and then we let them pick and choose depending on their requirement. Somebody is already doing certain things, so they don't need the entire 9 yards. They want to pick and choose, and then we help them integrate. Okay. We educate them on how best to take, for example, the maximum value of the data that's being generated by those plethora of applications in order to better monetize the data and so on. So these are ways in which we are building. So we are doing that, like you said, for BFSI. We are doing it in manufacturing. Within manufacturing, again, automotive is separate, tire manufacturing is separate, cement is separate. So we do have solutions which we have helped to build for a variety of these industries.
Perfect. Let's now talk about something which has become a boardroom agenda, and that's sustainability.
Sure.
So my question to you is, how is AWS embedding sustainability across its offerings?
Yeah, sure. So look, that happens at multiple levels, right? I mean, first and foremost is just in the way AWS approaches the building of a cloud. So, for example, we have been very, very conscious of the amount of power and water we consume, water for the cooling. So, for example, we had a target that by 2030, we would match every unit of power that we were consuming with 1 unit of renewable energy. By 2030, we met that objective in 2023 itself, 7 years ahead of schedule. We also have a target that by 2030, we want to ensure that we are giving back more water than what we are drawing from our communities. And we are already 41% of the way there. Okay. So that is what we are doing from the point of view of building of data centers. Then if you look at the technology that runs inside, to give you an example, if you're doing machine learning, training of an algorithm, we're able to do it at 50% less consumption of computing power. And likewise, for every inference that you do, you can do it at 40% less. Now, that's the kind of technology that we are putting into the data center itself. And third is in terms of the tools that we provide to customers. So, for example, AWS Trusted Advisor gives you details on what are the instances which are running idle, in which case you can power them down so that you don't consume extra power and resources. And fourth is how do people use this technology then to improve their own business operations. So, for example, EID Parry, who spoke with us at our recent AWS summit last week in Mumbai, when they are distilling alcohol from sugarcane, they have seen a 15% improvement in the distillation efficiency, which means for the same amount of power, 15% more distillation and a 10% reduction in the steam consumption in the process. So that's a way in which we are helping customers use technology to improve their business operations. So all 4 levels, the cloud itself, the data centers, the technology that runs within, the tools we provide, and how people use the technology to improve their operations.
That's good to know that, in the race to provide new innovative technology, sustainability is not left behind.
Absolutely.
And AWS is paying full attention to that.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about a topic that we touched briefly, and that is AI adoption in India. So, what role do you see AWS is playing in accelerating that in India, AI?
Absolutely. So quite a few things we are doing. Like, for example, globally, we have committed to $230 million worth of cloud credits as by way of investment to startups in order to be able to build net new AI capabilities. And obviously, Indian startups will be a part of that. And as you know, India is one of the largest ISV ecosystems in the world. And we are working very closely with these ISVs, not just to build technology for India, but also to export to the world from India. And with these, will embody the latest in AI. And last but not the least, we are also working with various government entities, etc., to help bring AI into population scale applications so that it will help the population at large. So those are the various ways in which we are helping.
So my next question is, are there any specific plans or initiatives where AWS is working on to enable real world AI use cases here? Do we have anything in the pipeline?
Absolutely. I mean, like, if I look at, for example, we talked about, let's say, financial services and manufacturing. Let me give you one example from each. Underwriting, for example, is one of the most complex processes in insurance, right? And every year during month ends, quarter ends, the load goes up. So the underwriters need help when the volume of transactions coming to them goes through the roof. So with Canara HSBC Life, for example, which is one of our reference customers, one of our valued customers, they are using AI from AWS in order to be able to look at data from multiple sources. The data that you provide as part of your policy request, the data that's already available about you, and other forms of data to look at what is the risk involved in underwriting this person, and then coming up with a highly explainable decision, which means, because explainability becomes very critical in these matters, and also then it becomes immutable, which means once it is recorded, either the underwriter accepts that decision or they change it with certain reasons, that becomes immutable. So then it gives transparency, which is very important in the use of tech. So this is one. Another example is Apollo Tyres, one of my favorite customers. They are using our AI, for example, to improve root cause analysis in the factory. So today, if an average, any problem that happens, the average amount of time it takes for them to do a root cause analysis is about 2 hours. By using agentic AI from AWS, they have been able to reduce that to 10 minutes, which is an 88% reduction. And that's also resulting in, on a per line basis, an annual 1.5 crores worth of saving. Multiply that by multiple lines and you can see the impact that it's starting to have. So we have, by industry, we have identified specific use cases that we are taking to market, both with ourselves as well as with our partners. And those are some of the initiatives that we are running.
So, Mr. Ram, AWS has been deploying AMD EPYC processors in many instance types. What kind of impact are you seeing among your customers of that?
Absolutely. Look, the EPYC chips we started picking up in 2018 onwards. 2020 we went to the second generation of EPYC, and now we are on the fourth generation of EPYC with AWS. And we are very proud of the fact that India was one of the first countries where the AMD launch happened with AWS. I was part of that launch back in 2019. And we straight away saw the impact, because customers who had been struggling with costs, for example, we were able to work with them to help them reduce the cost of compute, and that actually helped to accelerate cloud adoption in a considerable way. We also chipsets are things which people have got used to over the years, over decades. So asking them to suddenly change it and move to another chipset is not always an easy choice, right? So in such cases, we actually worked with AMD, who are our valued partner, to help customers test extensively some of their most critical applications on AMD chipsets to gain that confidence. So after those first few pilots, and we were able to then talk to customers about then making it a larger scale adoption, we saw pretty rapid adoption. While I can't share specific numbers, in terms of AMD as a percentage of total compute consumption, we are among the AWS regions, India is probably the fourth or the fifth largest, which is, very considerable.
Right. And is that something that excites you about this collaboration,
Absolutely.
AMD, AWS coming together in India's evolving, cloud landscape?
Absolutely. Look, some of the new use cases that we've been able to tap into, because we've been able to produce that level of price performance at a lower cost, it's opened up a range of use cases which otherwise we may have struggled a bit with. Like, for example, high performance compute, which is extremely compute intensive, using it for example, scientific computations, for research and development. That's one class of use cases. Another class of use cases would be extremely memory intensive, like running large memory caches or doing huge in-memory database capability, which is required in things like financial transaction fraud analytics or smart factories and so on, where you need a lot of in-memory capability. There again, we have seen significant usage of AMD. So whether it is high performance compute, whether it's memory optimized, whether it's compute intensive workloads, whether it is graphic intensive, where, for example, people running engineering applications through a remote desktop, using AMD to render these images rapidly with low latency, that has helped to bring HPC workloads and remote workloads to the cloud as well. Okay. So it's opened up use cases that we didn't see prior to that. So yeah, we are absolutely excited.
That indeed is exciting.
Absolutely.
So let's now talk specifically about your team and customer innovation initiatives.
Sure.
Your team spans 5 major pillars, and I've listed them down.
Sure.
Migrations, AI, ML, business value, innovation, and industry focus. So which of these are customers most drawn to right now?
It depends on the customer's need, right? So there are customers who are, for example, say currently struggling with their, the large data centers that they are managing, the old complex applications which are not agile enough for a new world. They are talking to us about how do I migrate and modernize these on the cloud, right? Okay. So that is one. But there are also customers who are talking to us to say, hey, we've been on cloud for the last 3 to 4 years. Can you help us do a value realization? What have we actually achieved by working with cloud? For example, the case study that I mentioned of Apollo Tires, that's one such example where we have helped to identify the value that they have realized. There are other customers who are saying, look, we've got truckloads of data already sitting on AWS, which means the building of analytical capabilities, AML capabilities on top of that is a next logical evolutional step for such customers. So our ability to work with them to identify the right use cases and do an art of the possible session, that is very critical. So depending on the customer's sort of maturity journey, where they are, each of these has their own pull. So yeah, it's like asking me who's my favorite child. They all are.
Okay, talking about the logical next steps, with your enterprise architecture background, how do you advise customers to really modernize legacy IT and at the same time continue to innovate at speed?
Yeah, see, this is a complex one, right? Because if you ask any business user, for them, adding new capabilities to existing applications is what they care about. But IT knows that unless you clean up shop from time to time, which means you clean up the underlying plumbing which the user doesn't see. See, it's like plumbing at home, right? Till it's working, nobody cares. When it doesn't work, everybody cares. So you can keep doing more things in the house, you can keep adding more electric points and so on. But at some point, if you don't fix the wiring, you're going to have a short circuit. So that balance, it's an informed choice that customers need to make. And our job is to educate them on the pros and cons. That how long do you think you can sort of avoid doing that rewiring of the home. So in our world, when we educate customers on this and we respect, of course, whatever decision they make, we then step in to help as required. So for example, even within modernization, there are 2 types of modernizations. One is where your underlying technology is very old and you're improving it. It doesn't really going to serve any business purpose. It might make the performance a little better, but the features you see on the applications are pretty much the same. So from a business user point of view, except that it's a little faster, they couldn't care less. But IT cares because that's the plumbing that's being cleaned up and you're lowering the cost because you're getting rid of older legacy tech and replacing it with modern open source. And then on the other side, you also have modernizations which are business driven, where today, if you look at the way we purchase products, right? Earlier, if you're buying a car, you would go to a dealership, you would compare models, and then you would buy. Today, 70% of the journey happens online. You look up models, you ask for recommendations from your friends on social media, you do comparisons. By the time you go to the dealer, you already made a short list, and then it's a question of doing a test drive and seeing who gives you the best bet. So how do we then help customers rebuild their customer journey maps on technology? That's a very different type of modernization where the business cares.
Okay.
So we work across all types of these projects. So as an enterprise architect, I always advise them that look at what is the trade-off that you are doing in terms of increasing your technical debt vis-a-vis doing modern stuff. And when you're ready, we will come in and help you identify what to modernize and how.
And quickly, I just want to take your opinion on the biggest challenges that Indian customers face while migrating to cloud. How does AWS really help in resolving that?
Okay. So multiple things, right? See, first and foremost is this for me? Right. I mean, there are still customers asking that question. So going in and showing them how cloud is helping other customers in similar industries and what are the benefits, that's something we help them with. Second is putting together a business case to say how much are you going to end up spending on the cloud vis-a-vis what you're spending, but more importantly, how is it going to impact your business?
Right.
How are you going to be more agile? How are you going to be more resilient? How are you going to be more secure? So we provide that. Third is the roadmap, because you can't just take everything overnight and move it. So what's the pathway that you need to follow which best meets your business requirement, at the same time minimizing the risk of any movement? So a lot of these things go into making these decisions, and we then advise customers on all of these, plus also training their teams and so on, and bringing in the right partners. So that's what we do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Ram, for joining us here today and
Thank
sharing
you.
those insights with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
So it's exciting to see how AWS is really driving meaningful impact across industries. And with partners like AMD in the mix, the future of cloud in India looks very promising. With that, we thank all our viewers for tuning in to this episode of AMD Cloud Chronicles powered by AWS. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and building what's next.
AMD Cloud Chronicles powered by AWS.